What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Mind Something. If you're new here, my name is Jake, and in today's video, let me start by saying I didn't want to make this video. I would prefer to be making some type of tutorial or educational focused content, but as most of you know, I have had some previous interactions with the founder of Dynex, Sumitomo, that were less than desirable. I have been banned from their Discord for asking these types of questions previously, and I'm unable to ask these types of questions directly to them now. So in an effort to be fully transparent, I want you to understand that I may have a bias here. But I'm going to present you with some of my findings, and I want you to decide for yourself whether or not my findings deserve to be investigated further. I would hope that my concerns are addressed or investigated by the Dynex team themselves if there is truly an honest effort to make sure that Dynex's ecosystem is not being exploited. So, let me take you back to the beginning of this. Back in February, I did talk to Sumitomo through Discord periodically, and there was something that I was seeing that was really kind of bugging me. I noticed that after the release of Dynex Solve 2.2.4, where they doubled hash rate, that some of the largest miners' addresses didn't change for a significant amount of time, that the amount of hash rate that they had stayed stagnant. And so this message that you're seeing is a direct message to him that I screenshotted, and I want to read some of these things to you. So one thing that caught my eye with the release of 2.2.4, the largest miners' hash rates have not changed at all. The top addresses have about 215 kilohash prior to its release and has stayed the same after its release. I am wondering if the pool they are on has not implemented 2.2.4 support. Can you confirm? Most of the largest miners are on miner add now. If the pool does support it, surely their hash rate would increase, but so far the only pool's hash rates that has increased is Ecopool. Hard to imagine the largest miners wouldn't take advantage of the latest version with such a massive gain. Which makes me think either they are mining on something other than a GPU, like an FPGA, or something else. And he responds, at the moment, only two pools have support for Dynex Solve 2.2.4, but they also still support 2.2.3 for a bit. The miner you are referring to is a large farm we know. They haven't upgraded, and it takes them a while to do so. We can definitely roll out FPGA or anything else. Miner Add Now is currently upgrading to 2.2.4 support. They haven't been that fast. So there's a couple of key takeaways from this conversation that I want to point out. Number one, they know who the large farms are. Okay. Number two, it takes them a while to upgrade. Okay. Now, let's move forward just a little bit here. So around the same time, sometime in February of 2023, I was trying to get a better understanding of Dynex Solve and perhaps why these hash rates wouldn't have changed. And there's some pretty in-depth conversation amongst me and several other people here that are just kind of discussing things that we're seeing. And there's some high-level tidbits that are provided by this person here who goes by CR4P. And in this, he basically just kind of outlines how the whole Dynex Solve works, okay? He said they confirmed they started with Kryptonite before they implemented the useful part of Dynex Solve. It went live on the 1st of December 2022. Dynex Solve basically at first runs some iterations of useful work or solving, where it uses generated simulation of Dynex chips to try to solve a piece of the puzzle. Once it's confirmed by the services which run on the pools that the connected miner really participated in solving or providing GPU power, then the miner is allowed to also run some iterations of the classic hashing. This process is then always repeated in a loop, solving, then hashing, solving, and hashing. Okay. The classic hashing is still done in the classic Kryptonite way and uses the CPU. That's where the power swings come from, where some miners complain about some iterations for solving on a GPU followed by some iterations of classical mining on a GPU. Now, this was back when we were still using the CPU to perform part of these tasks. Now, that has changed since then. However, a lot of this stuff has not. So let me continue. Now, as most people know, there has been a lot of attempts to kind of hack Dynex Solve by different parties, especially during the Xmas holidays. One common way was they somehow used AMD cards with a modified third-party miner where they just did the hashing part, but skipped out the solving part, thus resulting in generating huge hash rate but not providing useful work, which also means trying to get coins but not benefiting to the network. There are still exploits for that circulating in the corners of the web, but this was just one type of exploit. During that time, there were a lot of new versions of Dynex Solve Miner trying to stop all these attempts. As I understand it, after they managed to get this under control, there is multiple steps approach now which tries to prevent such things. And he goes on to explain how they attempt to solve those things. One of those being on the pull side. The pull side verifies that they are contributing to the proof of useful work part of solving, as well as the hashing part. Now, the other part of this is on the mallob side, which Dynex controls. Keep that in mind, okay? And then the last part would be the miner itself. The miner is also verifying that they are not a malicious actor, okay? Now, let's move on and let's talk about some recent changes. So on July 16th of this year, OneZeroMiner announced that there will be a new version for Dynex Solve. And in this change, the hash rates of this version is significantly lower than version 1.1.3 because of all of the changes made. Now, of course, you guys are already aware of this, but as a whole, we initially lost about 40% of our hash rate with these changes, not only on OneZeroMiner, but also on SRBminer as well. Now, I took it upon myself at that very moment on July 16th to start taking screenshots of hash rates of the largest miners on the pools. So, for example, we have Ecopool, we have Neuropool, and we have Miner Adnow. Now, I posted this on the 17th, although these screenshots were taken on the 16th. I wanted to make sure and take a snapshot the day of the announcement. Now, I also shared this with Serpent X Tech on the 17th as well. And again, we have the full screenshots here. So there's Ecopool, there's Neuropool, and there's Miner Adnow. Okay? So, right now, a typical 3070 is going to produce about 3.18 kilohash or 3,180 hashes. All right? Now, if we take a look at some of the largest pools, or excuse me, some of the largest miners, you can see, like for example, this one's at almost 16 megahash. Well, megahash to kilohash and then to hashes. Okay, there's a significant difference between all those. And in order to have, let's say 10 megahash, you've got to have over 3,000 3070s. So we're talking about some pretty large farms as far as the top miner wallet addresses are concerned here. And if we take a look, you can see the largest one right now is sitting at about 35 megahash. So we're talking about 9 to 10,000 3070s or the equivalent thereof. That's a lot of hardware there, okay? Now, if we compare the hash rates prior to the release of OneZeroMiner that reduced hash rates by approximately 40% depending on your GPU, and we compare them to what these largest wallets are producing now, you're going to see something pretty shocking. We're going to start with Ecopool. Okay, so the largest miner on Ecopool was at roughly 60 megahash, and they dropped about 40% of their hash rate, currently sitting at 36%. The next one was sitting at about 10.5 megahash and is currently sitting at about 9.8 megahash, or a loss of about 8%. Now, this kind of swing is actually observable on the pools in real time. So if we sit here and watch this page for longer than about 30 seconds, you're going to see it refresh. And note some of these numbers here will change. Now, some of them change less than 1%. Some of them change as much as 5%. So going back to this here, this 8% swing could potentially mean that their hash rate has perhaps stayed the same. This particular miner went from 6.87 megahash to 28.19 megahash, or an increase of 410%. Now, this particular wallet address was found on more than one pool. So if we look down here, we can see they had 19.41 megahash on Neuropool at the same time that they had 6.87. So they had roughly 26 megahash before the change, and now they have 28 megahash. So they've actually increased. Now, could this be explained by them simply turning on more hardware? Perhaps they had hardware that was on a different coin and they decided to move it over to Dynex after the fact that we have new miner releases and hash rates have changed. It is possible. However, what is the likelihood that they move the exact same or very close amount of hash rate to compensate? Impossible? No. Improbable? I think so. Now, how about this one? Next one, 5.6 megahash down to 3.3, a loss of 40%. That seems pretty accurate given expectations. Then this one goes from 4.7 down to 3.14. Also within expectations. As far as Neuropool is concerned, this particular address I have not been able to relocate. This one we covered previously, and you can see that was an increase of 44%, but again, they had 7 megahash on a different pool at that time. And then the next one goes from 6.42 down to 4.75, a loss of 26%. The next one, a loss of 35%. The next one, a loss of 28%, 56%, and 60%. All of those are within expectations, in my opinion. However, let's take a look at miner add now. So, this particular address lost approximately 4%. This one increased by 2%. This one stayed exactly the same. This one increased by 8%, and this one increased by 18%. Now, are these things explainable? Perhaps. But does it appear as though their hash rates did not change? To me, it appears as though the hash rates either stayed the same or perhaps even increased in some instances here. And again, there's really only 3 explanations for this. Number one, they had hardware on a different coin, or perhaps they added additional hardware and moved it over to Dynex, and somehow all 5 of the top miners managed to keep their hash rate exactly the same or increase it. Or perhaps these miners on miner add now had the Onezero version that no one else had prior to its release and updated it before the announcement was even made. But again, if we go back to Sumitomo's own words, he says, takes them a while to upgrade. So, does that seem likely? I personally don't find it likely. And then the last option that we have here is somebody's cheating. And if somebody's cheating, I think that Dynex themselves would be interested to find out how they're doing it. So are they going to pursue what I'm illustrating to you guys now, or do they have an explanation to explain it all? I don't know. But I'm hoping you guys can get the message to them, because again, I'm not on their Discord. I've been banned. I know that they just think that everything that I say is FUD. But, again, I've had my issues with them in the past, but I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt. Dynex has gotten a lot of attention lately. They're making some very, very bold claims, and there's some very, very intelligent people out there that are backing those claims and saying that they are legitimately doing what they're claiming to do. And I'm not saying that they're not, but this looks suspicious to me, and I think it deserves investigation. But when it comes to trust, I've learned some very valuable lessons in my life. And one of those lessons is when there's a conversation being had and someone's lying, typically the person who wants the conversation to end is the liar. And they've banned me from their Discord. They don't want to have these conversations anymore. And let me leave you guys with this. So, when Chump Change interviewed Sumitomo, he asked him a very direct question that a lot of people have wanted the answer to, and that's whether or not Sumitomo uses a voice changer to hide his identity. And let's hear the answer to that question.
A lot of people. So I guess let's get the first question out of the way. Again, nothing here is meant to be disrespectful in any way, right? But a lot of people want to know if you have a voice changer because your voice sounded kind of different in one of the interviews you had. And then DJs, it was like, holy hell, it's talking to Arnold Schwarzenegger. So we were like, what is happening here? So
well, it's just different equipment, you know.
Right. So I mean, I can vouch for the fact that microphones do make you sound different. Like when you change from like something like this to, a normal like potato mic,
So his answer is it's just the difference in equipment. However, there has been some documentation of the voice changer being utilized. Now, it's been scrubbed. These original videos have been deleted. Luckily, other people recorded them and put a couple of them back on YouTube. So let me play these for you.
Welcome everyone to Dynex Armor 002. What? Did I just hear myself? Again, I hear myself in the Schwarzenegger type.
Okay, now let me see if I can add this voice and bypass this Schwarzenegger shit.
So if you didn't hear that, he said, let me add this voice and bypass this Arnold Schwarzenegger shit. Okay? And then another video.
So not every customer likes to be transparent that he's computing something on Dynex, that how many Dynex did he buy, right? We believe that the privacy
of computation and of Dynex and of the network is actually being really interesting, and it's for the...
So there you can clearly hear the original voice overlaid with something that disguises the voice, right? Now, sure, it is possible that perhaps the person who he's getting interviewed by has their microphone on and we're hearing the difference between the two. The problem with this explanation is, why did they delete the videos? Makes you think, right? Anyways, so again, there's some funny stuff going on here. Perhaps there's an explanation for all of it, and I hope that there is. I hope that there's a response to this video. I feel that it's a valid concern, and I'm not saying that I'm right. I'm just asking questions. The problem is they don't want to answer these questions, and when you don't want to answer questions, that starts raising red flags for me. But, when it comes to what they're actually doing, the technology with this neuromorphic network, I'm not smart enough to speculate on whether or not it's possible. To me, it sounds like they're claiming perpetual motion. Maybe it's possible, but I certainly couldn't begin to tell you whether or not it is. There are some really, really smart people that are backing their claims and saying that it is. And if they truly are capable of doing what they're claiming of doing, then this is some pretty life-changing technology. And I just want there to be transparency and honesty. And that starts with having an open and honest conversation about these things. I want to know what you guys think. Do you think I'm completely off base here? Do you think that they are a bunch of scam artists? I personally don't know. I'm just simply asking questions and trying to get to the bottom of things. I think the whole hash rate thing here is very suspicious, and I'm curious if they're going to investigate it. And I would appreciate you guys' help trying to get the word out to them to let them know what I found. Anyways, that's it for the video. Hope you guys enjoy the content. Do me a favor before you go. Hit that like, and if you haven't subscribed already, please consider doing so, and I'll see you on the next one.